Resyk 101. Okay, hey folks, welcome to the area of the Lawless bunker that deals with waste reclamation, Resyk 101. So Resyk 101 is a very special recycling plant that breaks down anything into useful components, and we take things that you want to get rid of, whether it's malfunctioning technology, unpleasant concepts, and of course any unwanted bodies. The latter must be deceased first, of course. A word of warning, whatever gets recycled is never seen again, so be careful what you send to Resyk 101. However, we're working flat out recently, so we're having to be a bit more selective about what we're going to recycle. We can't just throw anything in there anymore, which is a shame, as we can no longer take literally that old joke, take my mother-in-law, please. However, the good news is that joke itself is pegged for recycling shortly. Joining me today are two people who have chosen something that they want broken down, recycled, and never seen in their original form again. And they are Michael van Kesteren. Say hi, Mike.
How's it, guys?
And Rob Williams.
Hello.
Cool. So I'll give you a quick rundown of who these guys are. So Mike VK, Mike van Kesteren, many of you will know Mr. VK for his work on Dredd 3D, in particular his sterling design of Dredd's Lawgiver, more on that later. However, his work is wide and far-ranging, having worked in some great films and TV shows like Da Vinci's Demons, Isle of Dogs, and Doomsday, and his most recent work was for the BBC adaptation of his Dark Materials, the novels by Philip Pullman, in which his design work is showcased at the start of every episode. So again, more on that later. And in his spare time, he's usually building a model kit of some sort, collecting Transformers, or zapping the ghosts under the bed for his son with his replica Ghostbusters uniform and proton pack. So that's Mike. And Rob, as with Mike, Rob will be very familiar to you as a writer for 2000 AD with many creations under his belt, including the Low-Life Wally Squad and Sensitive Clegg. And his work on Judge Dredd is renowned. The recent Dredd collections, A Small House with Henry Flint and Control with Chris Weston, have both met with critical acclaim. But Rob has also worked for Marvel and DC on projects involving the likes of Deadpool, Wolverine, The Punisher, Daredevil, Ghost Rider, Superman, and the list's endless. And if you're a Star Wars fan, you may also have read some of his work on the Star Wars Tales and Star Wars Rebellion. Also a family man, according to the Albion British Comics database, his daughter loves him more than any crocodile. High praise indeed. Okay.
That was some years ago. I'm not entirely sure she still feels the same way.
Not crocodiles anymore, is it? Okay.
Maybe so I think she prefers crocodiles at this point, possibly. I'm not sure.
So, Rob, we're going to start with you. So what's your choice to go into Resyk 101?
Well, I was trying to think, if you look at everything in Mega City 1 and Dredd's World and robots, I just thought robots, because they're kind of rubbish, aren't they? They just go wrong. I mean, if you look back, I mean, it's one of the very early Dredd story. You got the Robot Wars and Call Me Kenneth. That should have been a warning, if nothing else, that they're not to be trusted. There was a war. All the robots rose up, and then you have Walter the robot. Now, I've been, for the first time in my entire career of writing Dredd and Mega City 1, I wrote Walter into a story recently, which is coming up in 2000 AD. And he's a robot with a speech impediment. It's just kind of, could you not at least get that right? And I just kind of felt, if you look through Dredd's entire history, no good can come from any story where a robot actually is largely involved. They very rarely kind of work as they're intended to. And then you've got this huge conurb of humanity, of like all these people living in Mega City 1, which takes up the entire east coast of America. They're all intensely miserable, and they're all unemployed because robots take their jobs. But the robots always go wrong, because if they didn't, there'd be very few interesting stories to tell. If the city just worked, there would be no interesting Dredd stories to tell. So I just kind of thought, well, it's kind of like it's a city based on terrible ideas, isn't it? From whether it's fascism or whether it's reliance on robots that just rise up and go wrong, and every other week a war droid is malfunctioning and blowing things up. So I thought robots need to go, to be honest with you.
So have you ever written any stories about robots going wrong?
I wrote a low life story which featured a giant construction droid called Crossdress Trev, who basically was a giant construction robot who had decided he'd been born in the wrong body as a male robot and wanted to identify as a woman. And I think that that shows there's something inherently flawed with the programming of all robots in
so he's still identified as a robot, though?
I think that those days were gone, to be honest with you. At that point, he's just like putting on giant women's clothing, even though he was a giant construction robot. And God bless him, you know what I mean? You are who you want to be. But I think they've just, they've created robots so advanced that they can have their own personality flaws. And so you kind of go, well, you might as well have humans if that's the case. Not that's a personality flaw, I'd like to point out. It's who he wanted to be, and that's absolutely fine. But
well, let's take a look at some of these robots then that perhaps have gone wrong. So you've mentioned Rod the robot. He's actually, the only thing that's gone wrong with him is just his speech impediment, which I get is probably a pain in the backside.
Well, I don't think it's just that. He's very sycophantic, isn't he? And he just loves Judge Dredd so much. And that amount of love. I mean, who programmed this robot? I mean, it's a very strange approach. It's just like robots should be they should do things that humans can't do. But it just seems like he's a really Weasley kind of human robot.
Yeah, well, mind you, he does make a great cup of Synthy Cat. So, and here he is with, I don't know if you can see this on his screens, but here he is with MechQuake. MechQuake has his own personality disorders, of course. So this is another example of what you're referring to, robots.
No, I'm all for MechQuake. MechQuake is more of MechQuake. Big jobs we could do with, I'm not a big believer in the whole thing. We could do with more Judge Dredds on the streets, but I think we could do with more MechQuakes on the streets.
On the subject of more Judge Dredds on the street, of course, there is the question of Mechanismo. So what's your thoughts on robot judges patrolling Mega City 1?
Well, no good can come of it because, again, no spoilers. I mean, I've just written a Judge Dredd story where mechanismos go wrong. Robots go wrong. I don't trust robots. I don't like it. There was. I don't know if you saw on Twitter recently, on social media, in New York, there was footage of a crime scene in Manhattan and a robot dog came out. I feel like we're going down dodgy road. All these fun videos of robots dancing that Boston Dynamic are showing us to try and tell us that they're cute and cuddly. It's about 5-10 years before they're hunting us down and killing us. Basically, we all know it's coming.
Oh yeah, that's a scary thought. Mike, what are your thoughts on robots? Good, bad, indifferent? Do they always go wrong?
I was just listening to that, sitting beneath a massive Transformers collection. There must be about 400 or 500 up here or something like that.
Well, some of them were evil, right? But some
not some of them, wasn't it?
Yeah, and some are a little bit borderline. Robots. I used to work in robots. Way before I got into this industry, I was working for an automation company that installed palletizing and food picking robots for the food processing industry.
All right.
It wasn't as glamorous as it sounds.
Did anyone try and kill you?
There were times I wish they would.
There was no rising up at any point.
No. Okay. The worst I ever heard was a palletizing robot that was programmed in such a way that it moved and accidentally hit its own emergency stop button on the base, and then that was it. It was stuck, couldn't go anywhere.
I do that on a daily basis when I'm trying to run.
Let's take a look at a couple of other robots that have gone wrong then. So we've also got these fine folk. I don't know if you guys can name them all.
Yul Brynner. I'm not sure. I can't name a character.
He's the gunslinger in Westworld.
ED209.
Yes.
Yep. And what's wrong with what's his name?
I forgot his name. It's not. No, it's not. It's Doctor Who, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
Doctor Who. I have no idea.
It's a robot of death from Doctor Who, from the aptly named Doctor Who episode, The Robots of Death.
Do you know what? If you're going to create robots and they're called the Robots of Death, I feel, there's a hint there.
I think only the person who is doing the evil with them, because this is another example of a robot that went wrong, in that it was being reprogrammed to deliberately kill, and you could tell it had been reprogrammed because their eyes started glowing red instead of blue. That was the giveaway, But Ed209, I mean, classic character. I mean, this is the problem. I think that I'm not so far convinced that we should do away with robots straight away, because we do have superb characters like Ed209 who we just lose. I am kind of like quite interested to see where the whole Boston Dynamic things goes, And I do have robots in my own household, so
we know what robots do you have?
Oh, I've got the little kind of like truck loader thing who's completely autonomous. What's it called? Vector.
Right.
Little black kind of truck. And I've also
one of the guys at work is one of those.
What's that?
One of the guys at work is one of those. It's it doesn't like him, but it likes someone else. It just wanders over to the other desk and sits there going. Hello.
And I've got a Sony Aibo as well. The old Sony dog from about a decade ago. I mean, the hardware is still amazing, but the software is way out of date now. But yeah, so I quite like robots. And I think, Mike, you've got a robot vacuum cleaner, haven't you?
We do. We have our droid, and my role in the house is the droid maintenance supervisor. In other words, it sounds really interesting, but I basically get to empty its bin and pull the hair out of the roller. So
there you go. So there's a strata within your house, and there's the vacuum cleaner, and you are below the vacuum cleaner. Is what you're saying.
You service the vacuum cleaner.
Yeah.
Or all service the vacuum cleaner. That's where we're going as a society.
Oh wow! So maybe there are some jobs in Mega City 1 where they service the robots. I mean, presumably someone had to try and fix Call Me Kenneth, and maybe just did a bad job of it.
Or he was melted down. I forget. It was quite some time ago.
We'll tell you what. While we're here, I wonder if I've actually got a picture of Call Me Kenneth. We can have a quick look at. I believe I do. Let's have a peek at him.
Honestly, I'd probably trust robots more than I trust remote-operated vehicles.
Remote-operated vehicles?
Yeah, well, the Predator drones that the US military like to use.
Very true. Well, in fact, sorry, go on.
Sorry, because with a robot, it has clear programming, so you know what to expect from it. But with a remote-operated vehicle like a drone or there were these little remote-operated tanks. I don't want to call them tanks, like Johnny Five with an M240 machine gun on top of it that would trundle into caves in Afghanistan, which the Taliban found out that, hey, if they just push it on its side, free machine gun. But with a robot, it has clear, defined instructions. It has programming. It won't stray beyond the parameters of that programming. Or at least you hope it won't.
Well,
but
they always do in Dread's World. Sorry to interrupt, but carry on.
No, but when you get something like a remote operated vehicle, where you have a bored teenager with an Xbox controller sitting in a cabin in America, and what they're doing is they're detached from what's actually happening. That's a little bit scary.
There's something like driving cars, really. You're quite detached from other people when you're driving cars, and that's controlling a piece of machinery there.
And then
one thing I do want to mention is there are some good robots, ones that never go wrong. Here's two examples.
I'm going to say they haven't gone wrong yet. It's only a matter of time before R2D2 kills.
I see. Yeah, they haven't gone wrong yet.
Kills again.
Just flips out. Yeah, exactly. Just takes people out.
And mind you, there is in the Star Wars universe, I think in Dr. Aphra, there's a rogue C-3PO type protocol droid who's actually into kind of like S&M and torturing people and stuff like that. So yeah, maybe you're right. Actually, maybe this wasn't the best example.
They're all going to go wrong. You just know they're all going to go wrong.
Okay, cool. So to recap, then, what you want to go into Resyk101 is robots in general, because at some point or another they're going to turn on the human masters and wipe us all out, or enslave us, or just go wrong in some way or other.
It's a plot device, isn't it? No one's interested in a loyal, well-working robot in fiction. At some point, they are going to go wrong, and we all know it. So just get rid of them.
Right. Okay. I'll bear that in mind. But now let's move on to Mr. VK for his choice. Mike, what did you want to chuck into Resyk101?
I sort of panicked on this one. couldn't put all the Tories in, so let's shy away from that. I'm trying to have a fun time.
Let's do it.
But you know where I am with that.
Yeah, you know what? That's a no-brainer. All three of us can agree that they can go into Resyk101 straight away. Yeah.
Yeah. Straight into the furnaces. So while my connection to the 2000 AD world is sort of like limited to my time on Dread. So going off of that, what I want to get rid of is the fallacy that is screen accuracy.
Right. Tell us more.
So it's something I see popping up a lot in costume groups, reenacting and all that sort of stuff, is screen accuracy. There's a benchmark and it must be this screen accurate, which causes a lot of it can cause a fair amount of division and strife and tension when it's supposed to be something that you should be enjoying and having fun with.
Any groups in particular that this has happened in? Or?
Well, there's a few groups that that require. I'm not going to name names because we all know them.
No names at all. Nothing. No. Okay, we won't name any names. No.
No, we don't. You don't need to. But yeah, it's because at the end of the day, there's these same groups also do a lot of good. But these benchmarks do create a form of elitism, not necessarily. They don't set out to form that to create elitism. It's not something that's done on purpose, but it creeps in. And then they set these benchmarks for it must be this. You must have that greebly, that thing. When, in actual fact, when you work on my side of things, you'll know that there is no such thing as screen accurate. It just doesn't exist. You're screen accurate to what frame of the movie, what edit, what part, what shot. It's a rabbit hole that people get lost in, and you end up losing the fun and the essence of what you're actually trying to do. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, because interestingly, some of your stuff has ended up kind of in these rabbit holes that you described. So here's one. This is example.
Right, that's mine.
It is yours.
That is mine. That is mine.
This is your design. Yeah.
Yes.
Design of the Lawgiver. That was in Dread 3D. So tell us a bit about this and how people have tried to do screen accurate copies of this.
Oh, it's really admirable that way in the beginning when the movie just come out, then all they had was images like this from stills or just watching the movie over and over and over, and they managed to get some of them gone really, really close. And I applaud that effort every time because they've gone out and they love this thing so much that they want to create a replica for themselves, and that's amazing. But then there will be people that go, well, that's not correct. So someone's done a huge job. They're just really proud of what they've gone and done, and someone goes, yeah, that's wrong, and it just deflates them.
So, on the other hand, it sounds like we've got a 50-50 here, because it does sound like people do get a lot of joy out of trying to recreate the things that they love from these films, whether it's The Lawgiver or in actual fact, I've got another example here. Let me see if I can find it. Oh yeah, here we go. Let me see if I can just bring this up. Now, you might recognize this one as well, Mike. I understand that people are trying to get this screen accurate at the moment as well.
Yeah, which is really hard because there's not that many close-up images of it, or it's very close. I've seen a few replicas that people have tried to make as well, and it's really cool. It's kind of weird to see something that you've worked for months on to bring to the screen, and then someone that you don't know on the other side of the planet goes, "Oh, that's cool. I'm making my own one." It's humbling, and it's really strange, and it's very cool.
So, can I ask, the hieroglyphics on it, are they your choice? Do you talk with them with the writer, or I mean,
in this case, it was a all the symbols are predetermined. The book there's 36 symbols that are described in the book, or in the literature. They're not necessarily in each book, but there's 36 symbols that have been determined that are on this thing. So we have a graphics department who will then create things like the symbol designs, because they then that's their job, and they then come to me and say, right, these are the symbols, and I then put said symbols on the alethiometer.
So something else I found was someone that perhaps had maybe tried to do a version of it. I'll leave you to judge kind of like how it looks, but I actually found this on eBay. So I'll just show you this.
Is it the little gold chintzy looking one?
There you go.
Yeah, yeah. We've actually our supervising art director got one of those for our production designer, and he sent it down to the workshop to get painted like the real thing.
Wow, really? Well, as a kind of like backup prop.
Yeah. Oh no. It's just like a cool. It's like, yeah, look what I got. That's really cool.
Yeah. That's a really good job, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not bad. Yeah, it's pretty cool. But yeah, but then I personally am really flattered by all the designs that are out there, and I'll look for them. If I find a picture of one that someone's been making out of cardboard or paper or wood or whatever, I'll quite happily share it, because it's someone's put a lot of effort into trying to create something that they enjoy.
So Rob, what's your take on screen accuracy? Have you got any thoughts on this?
Not really. I mean, I'm a big believer in the fact that what works in the comics doesn't always work on screen, and I think there is a kind of, you can't go like, we've got to be literal with, like, we might all love a comic or one comic story, but I think if it's going to be transferred to TV or film, it's got to work on camera. Yeah. And I sort of think sometimes you just have to go, no, okay, cool. It's like, that's the spirit of the thing. I think as long as the spirit of a thing and the theme of the thing is there, then you've got to expect changes, because some of the stuff that's drawn will just look crazy on screen and entirely impractical. I think Dredd's a good point. I mean, we all love McMahon, how Mick drew Dredd, but I think if you actually tried to actually do that on screen, I suspect it would look bonkers, which is part of what we love about how Mick McMahon drew Dredd. It was so sort of angular and all these shapes coming everywhere, but it's not really realistic to actually expect a human being to walk along.
Yeah, and interestingly, you could probably say that about the Lawgiver as well, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a very, very a very valid point. Is that it's something. I mean, I've worked on this is my second adaptation of of written work that has gone onto the screen. Obviously, previously it was Dredd. Now it's his Dark Materials. With season 1, we had a precedent set with the film done back in 2007, I think it was, thereabouts.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, it's always that in the back of your mind, that there's some very dedicated fans who have their own specific idea of what is described, how that should look like. Because the books, the Dark Materials books have been out since '97. We did Dementors before J.K. Rowling did, by the way.
What's that? Before J.K. Rowling?
Dementors.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So this is from the second series of his Dark Materials, isn't it? When they visit that dimension with the swirling things.
Yeah, with the spectres. And
Pullman was first, right?
He was. But yeah, so it's... you've always got that in the back of your mind that you have to try and be as faithful to the novels or the comics as you can, but within reason, because you still have to be able to afford to make it. Because you can draw and you can write a lot of things, but you can't necessarily film it, not for an achievable budget.
Yeah.
So we try to do as best we can, and also you can't really take a 400-page novel and expect to put everything on the screen. You have to combine characters, you have to leave certain things out, and there's a lot of editing that you have to do to make it an adaptation. And that's where, you know, adaptation comes in. It's an adaptation of the novels or of the comics. It's not meant to be a direct translation because it's just impossible. Yeah, you're inevitably going to have to disappoint someone about something. And I reckon we've got about 8 out of 10 people on board, which is pretty good.
I think it's the same with the Alex Garland film, with you know, which you worked on. But I mean, you know, that's just a really good, you know, tight film, basically, and a little distillation of what Dread is. But you're always going to get people that go, well, it didn't have this and it didn't have that. And you go, well, no, it's a tight, you know, it's a, you know, a very clever kind of thing to kind of go, it's all set in a city block is a really smart idea. And, you know, but you are probably going to go, well, why doesn't it show Judge Carl and all this type of stuff? Because it's not a 40-hour TV show, you know. It's like, you know,
the way I saw Dread was that, or Dread 3D, is that it was a when you get your 2000 AD, there's always like a short story at the back, Dread story. It's like one of those, like a day in the life. Yeah,
and it worked really well.
Cool. Okay, so Mike, then, so in summary, it's all about how screen accurate is, but also how people can become so invested in it that it becomes, instead of something joyful, it can become a bit of a poison chalice almost, essentially. What you're saying. Yeah,
exactly.
Cool.
That. And not so much just for the person themselves, but when they are so happy with their production and someone else who is more of a purist goes, that's wrong, and that just completely takes the wind out of their sails and goes, oh,
takes all the joy and love out of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So we've.
I'd like to point out that I am advocating for the survival of the human race, which seems a more noble point of view.
So right. So let's do a quick recap. So we've got two very kind of like strong viewpoints here about what could go in. Robots in general, because they could just kill everyone.
No, could they will. I mean, if cautionary science fiction has taught us anything, they will eventually.
They will eventually. Okay. Or on the flip side, we've got.
My friend here says otherwise.
But he's only 50% of that group of robots. The other 50% are quite happy to kill everything. So you know, I think Rob might still have a point here. And then we got screen accuracy, which is. There's a lot of joy in it, isn't there? And it would be, I don't know, on the one hand, I think it's a shame to shove that into Resyk101 because there is so much joy in it. But on the other hand, I can see how it can become a poison chalice for everyone just because a few people are prepared to spoil it for everyone by going, well, that's rubbish because of X, Y, Z. With the robots, I'm not entirely convinced that the robots are going to go in, because that would mean I'd have to chuck this fella in, you know, and
well, all he does is blow people away. He's not exactly an altruistic.
With that being said, the guy he blew to pieces was some corporate.
Lickspittle.
80s. You may have had it coming.
I forgot the name of the character, but he's played by Ronnie Cox, wasn't he? Yeah.
But do we have to? Oh yeah. Well? I mean, R2 and 3PO. I mean, come on. I don't know.
Let's see ED209 and R2D2 fight. That's what I want.
You'd win them. God, what a battle! Right, I'm going to make a decision here, guys, and then we'll have a quick wrap up. I think my decision is that robots can be deadly, but are intrinsically massively cool. So I'm going to keep them out of Resyk101. Just for that simple reason. They are just so cool. And also, I wouldn't want to decimate Mike's Transformer collection either. And I think I'll put screen accuracy in because at the end of the day, you know, I know what it's like to be on the receiving end of when I've poured my heart into a creation and someone goes, oh, but it doesn't look quite like that. And I'm like, oh God, why did I bother in the first place? So I completely get that feeling. I don't like that feeling. So I'm definitely going to chuck screen accuracy into Resyk101. And maybe if I'm feeling really creative, I might do a little animation to insert at this point, or I might not. We'll see.
Resyk101.
I'd like to take, with that decision, I'd like to take you to the opening shot of Terminator 2. Do you remember that, all of us in the cinema, like 90, whatever it was, 92, something like that? And there's a human skull and a robot foot comes down on it and crushes it.
Crushes it.
I'd like to point out, David, that will be your skull. And you, at that point, will go, I regret my choice at this point.
Well,
This did not pan out.
yeah, I guess if all that's left of me is a little skull, I probably won't be thinking much of anything, really. Except maybe the disappointment I felt when someone pointed out how my sensitive Clegg wasn't quite like the one that Chris Weston drew.
Was it your sensitive Clegg?
Oh, that was, yeah, that was the model I did, yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, okay, well done.
So yeah, screen accuracy in the bin. Yeah, in Resyk101, off it goes. So, sorry, Rob. Kind of see where you're coming from, and it was a tough decision, but that's what I'm going with. Mike VK wins this round, I'm afraid.
I'm trying to save the entire human species, and I've been voted down.
Honestly, after this last 16 months, the human species probably deserves it.
Oh, yes. Let's end on such a positive note. Brilliant. Okay. Guys, before I wrap her up here, we've got a couple of minutes to just kind of like chat about things that you're working on currently. Rob, is there anything that you've got going on right now that, or anything that you want to promote or publicize?
Well, my latest Dread graphic novel, End of Days, came out a couple of weeks ago with art by Colin McNeil and Henry Flint, and that's marvelous.
Oh, fantastic.
So I would like to obviously publicize that. And then myself and Lawrence Campbell and Ollie Masters did a create your own graphic novel recently, which has just come out, which is called Old Haunts, which is sort of the general idea of that is like Goodfellas with ghosts. It's like a bunch of gangsters who, at the end of their career, who on the last night of their career before they retire, get haunted by the sins of their past. So that's out at the moment, and got beautiful artwork as well. So yeah.
Oh, that sounds really cool. Excellent. How about you, Mike? What are you up to at the minute?
Well, it's season 3 of Dark Materials, and that's all I can say.
Oh, here it is. 1 second. The dog is looking at the door, which means he's about to pee in the kitchen. Unless
that's important. That's very important.
There you go. Off you go. See you in a minute. I'll be there in a minute. Go on, you can go out on your own. Sorry, right. Mike, sorry, start again. What have you got coming up, Mike?
At the moment, it's Dark Materials Season 3, and that's about all I can say about that. For obvious reasons. I've gotten in trouble with that sort of stuff before. I'm not falling down that one again.
Yes, remember that.
You know that one well. And then just prior to that was a little teen children's sci-fi show for Netflix called The Last Bus, for which I made robots.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, no, hang on. And what
not
the
the show,
doing?
the robot.
Yeah, no, trust me, by the end of that show, I felt very much the same way. It was,
so what are the robots actually doing in that?
Killing, wiping out humanity.
Oh no, maybe I have made the wrong decision here.
No, there's a goody robot and a baddie robot, and yeah, I've seen the edit of the first episode. It's definitely for a younger audience. When's it coming out? Don't know. Probably towards the end of the year, ish.
Right. Cool.
Maybe. I have no idea. I sort of walked out on that one. It's like, I'm out of here, guys. Cheers. It was an interestingly, I would say rough experience, but I've had more fun jobs. And
is Dark Materials 3, when's that coming out?
I can only assume sometime next year.
Right. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Because
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, there we have it, folks. That's,
and of course, Resyk Materials Seasons 1 and 2 on BBC iPlayer, iTunes, and all those wonderful places.
And the race, yeah, I've thoroughly enjoyed them. Yeah, they're brilliant. Yeah, season 2 in particular, I was really taken with. But anyway, we could talk about that all night.
Cool.
So, yeah, so thanks very much both for joining me. This is really, really interesting and kind of quite challenging decision I had to make there. Sorry, Rob. But yeah, that's Resyk101. So I just want to say thank you to my guests, Mike Van Kesteren and Rob Williams. And I also want to do a quick shout out to the 77 Comic as well, who let me use their Zoom for recording the session. Thanks very much, guys. Everyone buy the 77. It's a blooming great comic. And there we have it. That's Resyk101 for the first ever Resyk101. Maybe the last. We shall see. We shall see this time.
Because humanity will be wiped out.
The next one will be run by robots. Yeah,
Exactly. And
all of us. Yeah.
But at least they don't have to worry about the shade of their uniforms. That's true.
That's right. Yeah, they don't have to be screen accurate robots. Yeah. Nice one. Right.
Look like them. Look what happened to them.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, bacterial and chemical as well, mine, not just robotic. But there we are. Anyway, we'll call it there because I know that some of you have to disappear really quickly. So thanks again, guys. And yeah, let's look forward to catching you, fingers crossed, when we can finally go to conventions again somewhere down the line. So very soon, I hope.
Cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice
Thanks a
one.
lot, man. Cheers.
Take care.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thanks a lot, both. Nice to meet you.
Resyk 101.